This is the August 22nd, 2018 Sustainability Board regular meeting.
What's that?
Wait, now go.
Good evening. This is the August 22nd Sustainability Board meeting for the City of Satellite Beach. Welcome, everybody, and it's nice we finally got some rain. So let's get it started with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty, we're going to start off with some public comment. So if you would come up to the podium and state your name and your address. Any public comment?
Linda Palmisano, 509 West Amherst Circle. I want to hand these out real quick. So one of the last times I was here, John Fergus kind of encouraged me to put down my thoughts on a single-page paper. And that's really, really hard to do, but I have given it a try. And I know it's not a topic for formal discussions tonight, but it's on the subject of the water fluoridation. So just kind of hit the high points here.
Okay, yeah, so
I learned some stuff even today about rainwater has essentially almost no fluoride in it, streams, lakes, whatever. I have been in touch with the City of Melbourne, with Ralph Rigelsberger, just within the last week or so about, because the hydrofluorosilicic acid, of course, is an industrial, we can call it waste product or byproduct. It's highly toxic, highly corrosive. It's not in any way, pharmaceutical grade. And they don't, in fact, do any kind of random testing when they get it. And so it's known to be contaminated with heavy metals such as arsenic and aluminum. And so it to me is, they do reverse osmosis on the groundwater. They do an active flow process on the lake water. I mean, they've got water in really good shape. And then they add in this hydrofluorosilicic acid, which is toxic in itself and then can be contaminated by other substances. So I very quickly hit the things we had talked about, the dental fluorosis, skeletal fluorosis causing arthritic symptoms. The CDC now says that arthritis is one of the primary reasons people miss work now. It's the number one, it's in the top of the workplace absence reasons. The reduced IQ, I've run across a couple other things. The second page of that is the only thing I've added as far as research information. The Lancet, which is the Lancet Neurology Journal, fairly highly respected medical journal, added fluoride as a neurotoxin. And they're also, when they talk about that, if you'll read it, they're talking about ADHD, autism, things of that nature. So it's more than...
Is that something recent that just came out?
That was actually, I think, in 2014.
Oh, really?
If you look, and I did, that's the only piece of research that I've added to the one page that we had talked about. Of course, I talk again about the suppressed thyroid function, the pineal gland, which produces melatonin. I just for fun, I wanted to see when Sominex came into being, and it was in the late 50s, and all fluoridation started in the 40s and 50s. The cancer thing is another Harvard study, and the reduced IQ, Harvard did a study on that too. And I have to think, I went to the meeting about the cancer cluster meeting that we had, and that's a perfluorinated compound, or two, PFOS, PFOA. So again, if you look at the chemical equation for it, or chemical, representation, I mean, it's mostly fluorine. If you look, so fluorine may be a problem in a lot of ways. It may, however we're being exposed to these contaminants. Like I said, when you get your water report, it shows fluoride as a contaminant. So it's either contaminant or a drug. And I say that if it's a drug, we violate informed consent. There's no way to control dose or dosage. And then the one thing we had talked about, and I had promised research on, was the environmental impact, to our aquatic life, primarily. We're talking in our situation, the lagoon. There's no research on what it does to a manatee or a tropical fish or anything like that I can find. The one study I have found, which you'll see referenced if you do any kind of search on this, is it was the effect of salmon, that we're unable to spawn, we're unable to make it upstream, we're dying about 50% die-off, and this fellow who did the research won an award from the American Fisheries Society, but he did find that there was an aluminum factory, and it was low doses of fluoride in the water. But once they made them stop, or restrict the amount of fluoride they were dumping into whatever waterway it was, then the salmon death rate was cut by a factor of 10, so it's 10 times less, I guess. So I have put my name and my email there on the bottom. If anyone would like the website links that I've looked at, any additional information, I would be glad to look at it. So I guess the fluoride topic has been postponed. Is it another month, do you think? Okay. So just some more information that some I had talked about, some I had tried to respond to John's request to try to consolidate stuff in a more simple format than 35 pages or whatever I had originally.
Yeah, that's great. Really appreciate you doing that.
So thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, we'll look this over and hopefully bring it to a vote next month.
Paul Johnson from the COCO Sustainability Board in COCO. First thing I want to do is say that a lot of people around the state look to you as the guide for having done all this right. So I cannot say how nice it is to have you guys really close. The COCO Sustainability Board has just started its first 2 or 3 meetings probably already, with another one coming up soon. So I'm hoping to work with anyone that wants to help us with anything. Nick is a point of contact. I've known him for a while, so if there's anything you think that can help us, send them through Nick, or just go ahead and contact me through Nick's contact information, and that'll work. Yeah. The other thing I want to talk about is I'm also a member of the Space Coast EV Club, which is electric vehicles. In fact, that was my Leaf that's parked out there charging.
I knew you looked familiar. We spoke on Earth Day. I was like, where do I know this guy from?
Yeah. My wife and I have 2 electric cars. We've converted our lawnmower and our weed whacker to electric, and we've now started using power from Arcadia Power, which brings in wind power, but not really to us. It just offsets it someplace else. So we've tried to do everything we can as cheaply as possible to do so, and we're going to have a booth at the National Drive Electric Week, which is actually in your town at the community center, on the 15th, running from 10 until 5. And we're going to have a booth for that. We have 41 cars that are actually going to be there, maybe 43, growing as it goes. Our club is nonprofit, and we don't even collect dues from anybody, so what we're really hoping we can do is, especially since it happens to be in your community and your goal is to get people toward the electric on everything, we're going to be talking about all of this. In fact, fingers crossed, we'll actually have the folks from Pipistrel that have the electric plane. They may have a booth there too, hopefully, working on that one myself. But if there's anything you can do to have the city advertise this for us, I know Nick said the Facebook could be done, but anything. I even thought maybe one of those electric signs like they have up in COCO now saying vote here, the sign's just putting up, maybe that can be done a week in advance. But anything that you can think of that will help boost that, it'll help out, because it's mostly going to be the people in your community that are coming to it.
We can put it on the Schechter Center sign, right?
So when is it again? Just tell me again. So you said
September the 15th at the Schechter Community Center from 10 until 5.
So we did a video on it last year, and we can share that again on the Facebook page.
I need to reach out to you, so I will be doing so, yes. This is the Dylan you were talking about, right? Yes, I need to reach out to you. You're on my to-do list, so I will be talking to you on that.
And send us the flyer, too.
Yeah.
Usually we put it in the Beachcaster. But I didn't get it.
Yes.
What you can do is Google National Drive Electric Week, Satellite Beach, and it's actually got the picture there that you can print. Or, if you so desire, I can send the direct PDF, which is a slightly better format for printing, to Nick, and then he can forward it to you.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That way we could print it out. And
Excellent,
distribute it, too.
excellent. But anything you can do to help for that will be great, because out of love, we teach people electric cars. We don't push any one particular vehicle. It's just the more people drive electric, we think the better it is. Questions? Again, thank you for what you do.
So it's the National Electric.
National Drive Electric
Drive
Week, of which we only get one day. So when I actually name the event in the places that I'm putting, I call it National Drive Electric Satellite Beach, and then just put the day.
Is this the first annual one? I forget.
I think it's the third.
Third, because I don't remember them. I just
They're
wondered,
going
do
on
we have
for a year.
booths there, or are there?
You,
trucks and
from the
booths.
best of my knowledge, you're going to have a booth there, right?
We're gonna bring that.
Okay, if you vote for it, you'll have a booth there. We'd love to have you there, because,
We don't have a vote.
We don't have to vote on it.
okay, whatever. The bottom line is the more presence you get to talk to the community, whether, however many of you want to come or whatever, will always help. Because a lot of people are being exposed to this for the first time. They didn't know they could get an electric car, they didn't know they could switch their power to, they just didn't know this stuff.
And you can go on drives and stuff like that.
That's the important part. Yes, you can drive Teslas, you can drive, and if we get the Ioniq from the gentleman you're talking about, and he agrees to let it be driven, he might not, maybe that too.
He's a great guy. He has a lot of knowledge. That'd be good to have there too.
We have 110 cars and 120 members in the club,
Wow. Just Brevard County, or they come from other?
mostly Brevard County. It doesn't cost anything, it's just an email.
Yeah,
We just send stuff out, like the recent commercial that Volkswagen now has been forced to do due to Dieselgate. I don't know if you've seen it yet. It's the Jetsons, and talks about how electric cars are so fast. They show all the brands, except for Tesla, so it's cool. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but any questions on anything?
If someone wants to reach out to you about tabling, like someone that I know outside of this, like would they contact you, or who would they reach out to about?
You can get my contact information from Nick if you want, or I can hand it to you at some point this evening, whatever you want. But yes, reach out to me and we'll do
Okay,
it.
yeah, I'll get it from you.
So I guess what you're asking is something that's not exactly EV related, or what is the table that you're thinking?
Like tabling at the event,
Right, so like we can table sustainability board.
right?
But you're thinking something else?
Yeah, other people.
Okay, sounds good.
Happy to talk with you.
Yeah, okay, great.
Thank you.
All righty. Any other public comment?
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Carol.
Hi.
Closer than last.
Yeah, I know. I was going to get out there and move it where it belongs.
Okay, Carol Robichek. Wanted to first of all thank you for your help and support with the library landscaping. It's going really well. We've got a couple of concerns that we thought maybe you might be able to help us with.
Okay.
One is, as you know, we're just a community people doing it. We've got the rain barrels, they're collecting lots of water. We don't really understand how the little turns go to turn the water and to make them match up with the plants. The good thing is, we're having rain, and we're out there dipping and pouring.
You mean the automated valve that I put on there? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, just being able to know if they're that way, is that letting water out, or if it's this way, that little,
There's just
Physical.
there's two controls. One that tells it how long to stay on, and the other one tells it how frequently to come.
He's talking about the manual valves.
The manual valves?
Off, on.
Yeah.
way. In other words, we'd like someone to come out and
good.
perhaps
That's right.
talk with us a little bit. We do have the one that is electric, and that's just way over our heads. So, that's what you're here for, right?
Right.
Because we're really pleased the response to the community with the grant that came from Keep Brevard Beautiful and everything has worked out really well.
Well, if
So
you
I'm
want,
saying
I mean, I
thank you.
can come out there and,
I know you could. But I thought, well, I needed to come to the meeting, and so I would ask, and any of the rest of you are welcome to come and give your input, because, we're trying it. It looks pretty good.
I need to come out there and look it over again to make sure everything's
Okay.
working right.
If you let me know when you're coming, I'll try to be there.
Okay.
Thank you kindly.
All right. Thank you. All righty. Anyone else? All right, moving on. So item 4 is to discuss, take action on community biking events. You gonna
Real quick.
lead that?
Real quick, I know you guys got some of these, but you made copies, maybe you can help pass them out. I'll give you a couple. I'm not going to put a whole bunch on you. There's just a couple. Thank you. Give you a bunch. Since you're a talker.
Give me a bunch, because I can take them to my kids' school and the salon.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I gave it to
SU or whatever regarding PCC.
Yeah. Wickham University. Yeah.
December 21st. Food truck.
All right, so real quick on the bike event. Over this past month, been working with Nick weekly on getting some things organized. We figured out a date for the 21st of September. That's in line with the PAL's food truck.
Food truck, okay.
Yep, so the event will actually be held at the Schechter Center. We narrowed somebody down for the bike rodeo after a couple conversations. Actually, during the time when the reporter was out here for the solar on the roof, he mentioned reaching out to the TPO. Reached out to the TPO, that's all they do, is bike rodeos. So they're going to be coming out with the trailer, setting up the event. We'll have a great rodeo going there.
What's TPO?
TPO, what's the transportation?
Planning organization.
Yeah, that's right. Who's?
Temporary protective order.
So we got them in line. They're coming out on the 21st. Happy to be there. We are still, me and Dave actually went to Bob's Bicycle Shop, right? Tried to reach out to them to get them to come turn wrenches for us. Haven't made a solid contact there yet.
We're trying.
Nick was going to try to reach out as
Still trying.
So hopefully we get that. We do have a backup with Walmart. They have a technician there. Julie gave me a phone number for Walmart, so maybe we'll give that one more week and then start reaching out to Walmart to get them to come on board. The TPO also recommended that for the bike ride, we have the bike ride led by the local bicycle police, which I thought was a great idea. So we're going to reach out to the local bike police and get them to join us on that night. So all in all, we have a really big event coming along.
They
So
have
it'll be
bike
fun.
police, but they also have volunteers that bike with the
Right.
police
Yeah,
department.
I've seen them.
This is Satellite Beach.
Mhm.
They have bike police
They have bike police volunteers.
Yeah.
that ride bikes?
Yeah, they're all over town.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never
It's
seen
the
They come in and
They used to have
like
a
up there
father,
and do
son,
it.
always, yeah, they're like chips, but we don't, on bikes, I don't know what we call them. Like pretzels, I don't know, but anyways, they come out there.
Potato chips or something.
I don't know.
Potato
chips.
I can come up with an acronym for them.
Anyways, they do come out.
So.
But I was out at the, if you're talking about the food truck like last week,
Yes.
right, that comes out, it's
Yes.
football game, it's because a lot of it's with the football people, right? Because if it's a home game or no? Because last week it was a home game, the
Right.
first home game, and so there was a lot of vendors out there, it was like a dozen, is that what you?
That's normal. It's the police athletic league that does it.
Okay.
That's PAL. Yeah. They're the ones who put it on, but they were, I asked them if we could do it the same night, and they were like, yeah.
Okay.
I think it's mutually beneficial.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's gonna be nice. We just have a few more ends to iron out.
Okay.
And I'll probably be giving each one of you a phone call to remind you. to
Will
come out.
there be a bike ride as part of it?
Yeah, we're trying to set up a bike ride, lead it up, and then that'll be the monthly course.
Nice. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I feel like if we just do the monthly course through the fall and winter, it doesn't have to be extreme. We don't have to commit to a whole year. But we can just schedule a couple months as we go. Might just be nice and easy and fun.
One of these days, we need to chart out all the, potential paths through the city and how we can make that more efficient and more user-friendly.
Yeah, and.
We've talked
maybe
about
like
it, city council
age,
talked
too.
about it. but.
Yeah, we can definitely do a bike bar crawl, for sure. I mean, because bikes, you don't realize
I
for
like that
adults
idea.
that how important it is. And if we do it, which I do, I bike all the time. It was raining and I had to drive my wife around. But anyways, I would bike here. But I think that it's important that for bikes, I mean, we can go all over the place. And biking is extremely important, and it's a great vehicle.
Yeah, we've got the interior roads. For the future, I'd really love to start taking, bikes, showing bikes that actually have the capability of carrying, your groceries, like a big basket in the front with 3 or 4 wheels, like displaying that at sustainability events.
I actually just got a trailer for my bike
Right.
on Amazon that I love. It holds like 100 pounds. It has like a cover that you can put on it, like if it's going to be.
And that's what I'm talking about, bringing that to when we have our
Cooler for drinks.
when we have our tent set up, like.
I'm just thinking, because you gotta keep cool.
But if we park that out front when we're at one of our events with a tent,
Yeah.
and we have a little sign on it or something, and have people practice riding around or riding their friends around with it, I think that'd be promoting using.
It'd be cool to get like funky bikes there too,
Yeah.
like the real tall bikes or like the, unicycles, just whatever, somebody can. When I was in Japan one time, I went to there's an amusement park, and the entire amusement park was powered by humans.
Oh.
So they had like, like overhead cable cars that you could, and they had a velodrome, and then they had all these funky bikes, like.
Yeah, I saw that in Japan.
You did?
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen pictures of it and everything. Yeah, it's real cool.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. I'm surprised it's my 90s.
Oh, it's still there. I've seen recent videos.
Yeah, it's bound by Mount Fuji,
Yeah.
not too far from it. But anyway,
So I think all in all, that's going really good, and if we just make it through this little event and start making a monthly bike ride, that'd be a good thing to have.
It would be cool if Bob's got on board, and I feel like this is one potential carrot for them. And it just so happened this past weekend, my kid just turned 1, so I put it's now safe according to the box to put together a thing where I tow him behind me or whatever. So we needed a new bike pump, so I rode with him behind me to Bob's, and you can get all the way there. If you go past the library, keep going through, when you get to Indian Harbor, cut over one street, and then the street that takes you by Ocean Breeze. If you curl past the school and keep going over the little, canal ditch type thing
Yeah.
they've got there in Indian Harbor, you can keep going and get to Burns Boulevard without
Exactly.
crossing over any major roads.
Right there.
Yeah.
It's Yacht Club Boulevard, the end of Yacht Club Boulevard is right there.
Yeah, and if you just go into Indian Harbor a little bit, you can get, and Burns, because it is a boulevard, you can go up there and do like a turnaround. So, I mean, we could stop for a drink at Charlie and Jake's, stop for a beer at Bob's where they have kegs. I'm just saying, like, if there could be some upside to Bob's getting on board with this, because they could be on the route, and it would be a sensible place to do it.
All right, we just need to make that contact. So I guess we have.
Well, the daily ride, the weekly is on Merritt Island right there. So you go over Mathers Bridge, and every Sunday, they go from like 6 a.m. to...
those are road bikes though, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of guys' heavy bikes, but it's still like something that people do. I mean, it's an event of bikes that are consistently every week. And they have Gatorade, they have stops along the way, little squeezy juice things.
Is that Bob's that sponsors that, or is that?
I don't know who the Space Bikes, I guess. I mean, they do it.
Three-wheelers probably.
Yeah,
It's more
somebody
family
does it.
ride, right?
Yeah, we're talking about potentially family, potentially music
Yeah.
and lights. I mean.
Yeah, it's a different
this could
event.
be pretty cool if we can move forward.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I think it would be nice if, can I cut you off?
No.
If we could have, maybe 2, 3 routes to start off with for, families with younger children that, maybe don't want to go as far, or with new bike riders, like the toddlers with training wheels, things like that, where they can still get their kids out, but they're not like 3 more miles to go, kiddo, but you can still get them active and then move on, like the zoo has the different treetop tracks for different levels.
May I suggest that for the first initial ride, we just do a short one?
Yeah.
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 and then build from there. That's it. I think so. We'll just-
I love it.
We'll get everybody together, have fun, and go for a short ride, come back and eat at the food trucks.
And the 21st is a Friday, right?
Yeah.
That could be a good night to do something like that, people,
And we gotta,
healthy TGIF.
yeah, we gotta get people to bring money too, because we're gonna have those food trucks, we're not gonna be giving away food, so.
Yeah, so, have you ever done Running for Brews?
Yeah,
Yeah.
all the time.
Go to Long Doggers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they have a course kind of,
Yeah.
and it's not too far from the Schechter Center, so I don't know if we could,
Just tag on to that.
we could. I mean, that's kind of, might be a little long, but we could shorten it.
Yeah.
But if you want, I can help you chart it out, or we can, just come up with a little map or something.
That'd be great. I haven't thought too much about exactly which roads we take.
But it'd be cool if we could get everybody to start at the same time, and that way you have like, because it's fun to ride with a bunch of people.
Oh, yeah.
And not just, go on your own type thing.
It's good for safety, too.
Yeah.
Cool. That's it.
All right, nice work. Any public comment?
When I saw this, I was thinking kids, like what you mentioned. I thought I made it family. If there was any way it could say something about family, all ages, whatever, it might make it clearer
Okay.
to the people that are looking.
We can put more detail on Facebook itself too, right?
Yeah.
Like if anything changes or something like that, we can
Yeah.
put a line on
I'm
Facebook.
pretty sure I marked it as a kid-friendly event too.
Kid friendly, okay, but we need to also invite adults.
Also adult-friendly.
Get like a martini-shaped glass of sample.
Two simple words, all ages.
All ages.
All ages.
And it doesn't say anything about the bike ride.
No, it does not.
Fun and games and a hammer. Thinking of like a lot of things, but it's adult.
Bike repair.
Maybe a wrench. We purposely.
That's a great point, though.
We purposely didn't print too many, so. So.
Yeah, that's how we're
Actually,
fixing the bike.
Yeah, these should be the original.
I've got one practical question. So 6 p.m. is when we'll take off on the ride. Is that because it says 5 to 9, then 6 p.m. in the middle. So is 6 p.m. like not the.
The food trucks are 5 to 9.
That seems like good timing.
Add the word ride starts at somewhere.
The Schechter Center.
All right, well, this has already been made.
Yeah, definitely put,
All right, well, we will fine tune that. I've taken notes here.
It's fantastic stuff.
all right, so, any other discussion?
Will it be in the beach caster?
It is in the beach caster.
Okay. Next item, discuss, take action on beautification board joining Facebook page. You want to give us a little bit of a background on that, Julie?
Did they ask you?
Or Nick,
I know
or-
you've been working with them a lot. So they were wanting to start their own page, and then Courtney kind of suggested maybe they could piggyback on ours. We already have a decent following. I mean, I don't know if you're open to tweaking the name a little bit, and they were definitely willing to make posts and stuff, and also promote their events and whatever you want to add.
So I was going to cover my staff report, but I'll do it now. Basically, we're just going to give them Mondays. I thought that would be a fair compromise to give them beautification Mondays, and then they could post on Mondays, and they would just go ahead and give admin privileges and post on Mondays.
So it'd be like a regular thing where
They would regularly post
I
on
like that.
Mondays, and I would kind of give them a way to create a following, and then after that, once they get done, they'll have their own page. But for right now, they're just doing it under our page, and keep it real simple.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. What do you guys think?
Mondays is not the most beautiful day.
That's why
I would
so
suggest, because when I'm planting on the weekends, maybe a Sunday or something. I'm just saying,
Okay, no, that's.
Or maybe before the weekend.
yeah, because not a lot of people, I mean, posting wise too is not a popular day on Monday.
That is a good point.
Sunday morning?
Sunday morning, maybe, yeah.
Okay, well, the reason that.
Well,
You said Monday, I'm just trying to throw that out.
I garden on Saturday sometimes, I want to have that stuff up front.
Saturday, we could do a party day of bike
I
rodeo.
like Sunday too, it's fine.
Is there an issue with you being able to police what they're saying? I mean, you want to be able to see what they're saying.
Right.
So you won't technically be on the clock, so is that an issue?
No, I mean, it's
I
fine.
think I discussed with her sending them to us first.
Okay.
And just making sure we were okay with what
Oh,
they were
okay.
going to do.
Can you go over the rules again? Like, I remember at one point, everybody was like storm posting and then.
Yeah, so right now we've got something worked out. Zach is essentially kind of managing the scheduled posts, and I'm just focusing more on producing the videos. I've already talked with Nick about this. This is actually a good strategy. If instead of making too many pages that have your audience divided, you kind of bring them into one place and keep your engagement up.
Yeah.
And it just also adds, more content. We right now are, it's not that we're struggling with content, but it's just that having more relevant content won't harm us in any way. The only thing I didn't talk about, and I definitely recommend we don't do, is change the name. So let's not change the name.
Not changing that.
They can just be very clear in their post that,
Yeah.
this is from the beautification board, and that's fine.
Perfect, yeah.
Well, and this seems to dovetail into maybe a couple meetings ago, I think we talked about, sounds like they have some general interest in kind of hanging out with us. I mean, it'd be good, I don't know, because the two concepts work together. And certainly from our perspective, I think that they should beautification in a sustainable way, I should say. So it might be good to set up some type of they could all come to one of our meetings, or we could meet in some neutral, just to talk about ways to work together.
She had mentioned wanting to come. I'm their board chairwoman, excuse me.
Is that Kay?
Kay, Kay Carson.
So do we have to make a motion? Is he making the motion to? Oh, I didn't know.
We're done being motion
So,
now.
on that one, the beautification board is probably going to change its meeting time to be 5:30, I think we decided.
In the evening?
In the evening, on the Wednesday, third Wednesday, we do our meeting. So that fourth Wednesday, this Wednesday is different. Well.
Anyway,
point being, they're going to change it so that before our meetings.
Right before our meetings?
Right before our meetings.
Oh, that'd be
We'll do
cool.
theirs, and then we'll do ours.
I like that.
Right, that was not what we discussed?
you did not discuss that with me. We'll talk about it later.
Well, Courtney discussed. Courtney discussed that. So, yeah, that was it. That way they can do our meetings afterwards. We can do it before, and that would just make them, kind of more like.
Sounds good.
It's good for them to do that too, so they can have more people come. Because at 9 o'clock on a Friday,
Yeah.
I don't know why they did that.
I like the idea of trying to go.
Started it in 19, whatever.
oh, that sounds good. They've been around for long.
Yeah.
1905, whatever.
Whenever the city was founded.
I like the idea of the
57?
kind of
Cheat
psychological
sheet.
effect that we could experience from just having the word beauty associated with sustainability too. I think just for some people, even if they're not reading that whole post and they see those words associated together, it might help people how they transform a little bit how they think about sustainability.
Well,
On a micro level.
yeah, well, I come from a background of setting up booths and advertising. Why don't we do something nice at the Founder's Day? Is there any way we can set up a more beautiful booth?
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask if you guys wanted to do that.
Like a real pretty,
Yes.
beautiful beautification, we can do both things.
Yeah, they usually do their own booth, but we can just put you two together.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe with pretty flowers and.
Nick and I had talked at
Nice.
one event that we were at about using like shells or like, coquina rock on the table as the weights on the windy days. Mm-hmm. And who doesn't love shells and coquina rock?
Well, we could spill.
Sustainable source of
We could
paper.
spill our booth, turn it up to the aisle. Really draw people in the way. have some native plants out there, because we've got tons of them.
We will have even more. It's on my list.
Actually, has the city considered, because I believe at Founder's Day, I believe the police volunteers had a booth, I think, something like that, right? Aren't there, if there are any other city booths that you kind of clumping together?
Well, Jim, I don't know if the rec department or the women's club does it, but I can speak to them. I have contacts for both.
Is that November 3rd?
Yes. From 9 to 3.
Maybe we can get that human-powered that drinking cart and use that in the parade. I just thought you might like it. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Okay, I
By
like
the
that.
way, speaking of Founder's Day and the parade, you've talked about bicycles, and then you've got the EV Club. I don't know whether they may have participated before, I don't know, but,
Ride together?
or, yeah, have a, bunch of, especially if your bicycle thing, monthly bicycle thing's working, kind of, that would kind of promote it if you got a bunch of people there. And then if the EV Club had a few of their vehicles, and they may have in the last parade. I don't remember whether they did or not.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea, because during the parades, everybody clears away from the Schechter Center to go watch the parade anyways. We're not being it on your bike.
Anytime you have an event idea, all you gotta do is just send it to Space Coast TV president. They will send out to see if someone will want to be part of it. And the next thing you go, you got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 vehicles will be part of it. Super simple. Doesn't cost anything, super simple, you get help.
In fact, at the risk of causing a problem potentially, every year, council members either walk or ride, and normally there's a car for each one.
Usually walk.
Yeah, but I think there's normally a car there, correct, for each one, does it?
Golf cart usually.
Or
Golf cart usually Courtney does.
Pretty sure everyone was walking last year.
They were walking.
Okay.
No, I already discussed Chris could totally walk in the parade. I think Josh rode in one year with his sea turtle that he stuffed.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Yeah.
That was so funny.
Yeah. Didn't
All
look
right.
too much like a turtle.
All right, moving on. Is there any public comment or on the Facebook page? And I guess we came to a conclusion on,
Yeah, that's fine. Let's give them Monday.
okay, or
Friday.
or another day.
Friday, whatever, yeah.
Friday, I think
Give 'em
Friday.
A day.
Sunday, I like Sunday.
Sunday's good.
Sunday's a beautiful day.
Yeah, that's true. Probably most people garden.
But if most of your activities are on Sunday, it means you're posting on the day of the activity instead of a couple days before.
That's why I'm thinking like Friday, because some people might garden on Saturday, but you're right, the weekend is probably the biggest time that most people are going to garden.
Could we ask them which one they want and then
Yeah.
have veto if we don't like it? I'm serious.
Yeah.
Democratic.
Small D.
All right, so they are going to join, and they'll pick a day, and we're not changing the name.
Yes.
Second.
Second. We don't need a motion, I don't think, for that. All right, moving on to the next topic, discuss, take action on water fountains in city. Julie or Nick, fill us in on what this is.
Courtney said next year we're budgeted to have 2 refillable water stations. So she was hoping that you guys would help pick location and possibly make like some kind of signage, say, this is from the Sustainability Board promoting reusing water
Yeah.
bottles, less plastics, la la la.
So you're talking about the ones like they have at the airport where you put your, it has a sensor. Is that actually a water filter, do you know?
Can it be outside or does it have to be inside?
There is a filter, just,
Basic carbon filter.
yeah, it says still gonna have fluorine in it, probably.
I mean, one, we were definitely talking about Satellite High School that needed one.
Yeah, but I think the school board will
I'm asking
hopefully.
you.
I'm saying they're outside.
Oh, okay, sorry, the way you were saying it, I wasn't sure. Okay, then they are outside.
All right, so
You
what,
can put them either one, but they're made
Oh.
outside.
what are options? We have the Schechter Center.
Definitely Schechter Center, I feel like with all the people that come and
Definitely
go.
at the Manatee Park.
And Manatee Park, I think.
Manatee
The
Park.
DeSoto Park.
Well,
Whatever you
some
want.
people call it DeSoto Park, but
Oh, over by the tennis
tennis
court.
courts and
And
baseball
community
field
garden.
and
Yeah,
big
that's
lake.
where we got the garden.
What is the name? What is our,
DeSoto Park.
It's still part of the DeSoto Park.
still DeSoto Park?
I like Manatee Park though. I love it.
Manatee Park is great because
I
it's
think you just made up that
Manatee,
name
it's
right
seasonal.
now.
Would it be useful at the
It's
beaches?
amazing.
At the beach, I think?
Yeah,
Erosion factor might be a little.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they've also got the
Pelican Beach.
showers
Pelican would be
there
the, yeah.
For,
kind of serve the same purpose if you.
for sure, Pelican Beach, I mean, that's where most locals go to.
Yeah.
High Tower is popular, but it's not a local,
Right.
Right, well,
it's
right.
somewhat local, not as much as Pelican. Pelican's really the,
So there's water fountains at both the Schechter Center now and at DeSoto Park, but they're just
Regular fountains.
regular
And
fountains.
they're inside
You can
too.
make. Depends on which one station you buy, you can buy ones that just get into that same structure, which are really easy.
But we want them to be outside too, right? I mean,
Accessible to access.
DeSoto's is covered, it's right near the tennis courts, right there,
We
and the
want them
baseball
to be
field.
used.
They're used a lot.
And I would think that I would think the tennis courts
Mhm.
and the community garden would be a great place.
Yeah.
Because when we have events there or people just working, you know.
Let's give Courtney some options and.
Okay.
Well, you've
Will
also
one of the
got
purposes
the,
of this be to fill water bottles? Yeah.
well, you've got the sports park too, where you've got soccer fields and football fields. And you do have a restroom there already.
Well, and they're gonna have the walking area around the pond and all that, right? So.
We need 5 stations.
One definitely at Pelican Beach.
Yeah, I think
Don't go
Pelican,
crazy.
Pelican Beach for sure, one at our new Manatee Park. I mean, you have to have one there, it's brand new, we have to have something that's gonna be new and sustainable. It's our signature place,
Those 2
right?
locations.
What about?
those two would be my first
police-
choices.
Police Department, Olson Field?
In Hitchcock Field, you got
But
Hitchcock
again,
Field,
the-
and there's 2 baseball fields. That's what's difficult about our baseball fields.
The sports complex would have way more people with all soccer games and.
And the,
I think Pelican is your number 1.
I feel like Pelican's kind of a showpiece for the city in general, you know, it's used by locals, but also it's like the non-locals come there and it's a nice reflection of the city.
The corrosion thing, like if it's,
We'll look into that.
yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
but
'cause
it's
I
our
think-
signature.
got a warranty.
It's Satellite Beach. We're Satellite Beach, and Pelican Beach is our,
Beach.
So let's,
Yeah.
for one of the 2, let's just say Pelican is one of our strong.
and the Schechter Center has a huge amount of traffic.
Yeah. I think it's hard to overlook that.
And employees that potentially would use it, and
So we should probably just start with 3.
well, the Schechter Center, because it has basketball, it has PAL basketball, it has the rec department, it has.
my guess is we'll
Students
probably.
can fill water bottles.
What about,
anyways.
what about this?
Schechter Center is
Can we
key
put it-
for kids.
Can we put it out on
Free.
the outside wall of the Schechter Center under the covering?
It depends on which model we end up going with, but you want to probably go with one that just fits it with an existing one time.
Okay.
Those are the best.
Okay.
Simplest.
I have an odd thought, just to think about. If there are instances where some of these parks, people are bringing in more water bottles than others. Just a thought. Plastic water bottles? Some people may not be bringing bottles at all, but one of the parks you need to consider. You have to maybe another park where people are bringing bottles all the time.
No, actually, I mean, it's pretty, well,
Just a thought.
yeah.
It is a water fountain too.
Oh, I mean,
If you don't have a
drink out of it.
container, you can drink out of it, and it's purified, which is nice.
And it counts the amount of water you use.
Yeah.
What if we did a poll, like on our Facebook page, and just listed, you know, all the places that we think are important, and then we'd say like other, and then get feedback from the residents?
Did we say we were only?
I like that, but not the other part, because it's gonna get complicated, keeping track.
Well, our issue is that we're only budgeting.
Yeah.
So we came up with about 5.
Right, so
Or
top 2.
How about this, Jackie, if in the future we get to the point where we're gonna get a third one in the future, which probably is not, like, we can put that on a doodle poll for the location and have people vote and we can maybe fundraise for it.
Well, why not now pick 5 locations and get folks to poll among the 5 and say, we're contemplating putting in 2, where would you put it? And then tally it up. We don't have to go with what they say, but at least when you talk to council, you can tell council, you know, 600 people out of 700 wanted it here.
Like the advisory committee.
I'll make it doodle poll.
Yeah.
Poll, let's do it.
And put it on the committee's webpage.
I mean, I don't really think it's necessary to do that, but it would give a lot of publicity to what we're doing.
Sure.
So it's one way to,
Can you get 2 votes on that, is it possible?
What's the goal?
On the doodle poll, no, 2 votes, because when you're picking 2, you know?
Up 2 for us?
No.
Okay, just curious.
Wait, what, I'm sorry, what did you say?
If you could have, like, give people 2 votes on that, because, you know, we're picking 2,
Are
so.
we thinking about doing like a Facebook poll type
Yes.
thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you get one option where you just pick the
Yeah.
top 2.
Well, we don't even have to
Are
say
we
what we're
going-
putting in 2, just say like, where in the city, if you could have a reusable water fountain, where would you want it to be?
Yeah, great point.
Yeah, great point. Okay.
And then give them 5, you know, 5 off, whatever's
So we
reasonable.
got Pelican, TRS, is it Hitchcock, was that one?
Sports Park, DeSoto Park,
Sports Park, DeSoto Park, Pelican Park, and Schechter Center.
So Pelican, Checker Center.
And Hightower, if you want to throw that in, but I
How about
don't.
City Hall?
City Hall, I was just thinking, I mean,
I totally second
Well,
that
that's
power.
Hedgecock Field, because Hedgecock baseball field is, I mean, there is no water fountain there.
There is none? Oh, okay. Well, yeah, 5, 6.
well, if you talk City Hall, it's the same thing, basically,
As,
Hitchcock Field.
Yeah.
that's true, yeah.
So if you put City Hall / Hitchcock Field, then,
It's also going to come down to if there's water
Available.
available, or if you got to run it, you know, if it's going to be a huge expense, then that may,
That's why the existing infrastructure ones are away.
yeah.
So I have a quick question. If we're taking away a water fountain, are we gonna reuse the water fountain that we take away? Can we put it
So the
somewhere
ones
else?
I've seen, you just kind of uninstall the head,
Okay,
and it fits on top,
okay.
which is real nice.
Oh, cool. All right, any public comment? Okay, moving on to discuss, take action on new yard sign campaign.
So, we're about out of our bags, our reusable bags, and Love Our Lagoon signs are kind of the women's club this time. So Courtney was wanting you guys to come up with some kind of little yard sign, you know, about the same size as like a fertilizer company would put in your yard, except ours say pesticide-free, fertilizer-free, and, you know, put our little logo, maybe another little fluff, and pass those out to people, because you guys really aren't going to have much to give away at Founder's Day this year. So if we want to do that, we would need to kind of come up with something pretty quickly so I can order it and get it here.
lagoon-friendly, fertilizer-free, pesticide-free.
Yeah,
That's-
whatever. Come up with
So-
something maybe a little shorter.
You're just looking for some kind of a slogan or verbiage for a yard sign, like "Make America Green Again," or something
Yeah, there was one.
like that. I mean, I don't know what you're saying.
There was
I'm
one
just
that
trying to
was
clarify
talking
this.
about like greener is not always greener.
Okay.
You know what I mean? As far as fertilizer.
Green is the new.
Make the lagoon green again, right?
Brown is the new green.
Make the
Just
lagoon
kidding.
green again.
Julie, am I understanding we're trying to find things to give away at Founder's Day also? Is that part of the need here?
Well, yes, she wants to have, wants us to have some kind of campaign.
Can we have recyclable water bottles to give away? Kind of fit with the refilling station?
As long as they're not made out of
She
plastic.
told me.
Okay. I mean, yeah, there's just so many cool options for recyclable water bottles. We can throw a logo on and.
This is what I've been told.
Yeah.
So this is my take
I'll
on
ask about that, because that might fit.
Anything that we create, like a sign, especially if it's made out of plastic, we're just contributing to the waste stream. Because most of these signs don't last that long. I had the lagoon-friendly lawn sign from, well, I had that one. That one was made out of wood, and it didn't hold up that long. I mean, it was, at least it was made out of wood, and it's pretty cool, but eventually, yeah, and that's obviously a better option, and it looked pretty good for a while, but the plastic just signs, I really don't like. And I'd much rather see us go to the bags that we had, especially the ones that fold up, are great. And I've been using those a lot, and I think that would be a more useful item.
It does, it really does. You can reuse it.
I don't know what the price point is, but if we're talking about giveaways, I mean, like straw, I mean, reusable straws, I mean, something like, so, yeah, I like where David's head's at, to find something that is sustainable, that would, you know, to give away.
Packages, bamboo silverware.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, so the problem is, if it's not made out of plastic, it's gonna be either really expensive or just, you gotta get somebody building it out of bamboo or wood or recycled.
We can do a scouts project and get scouts to build like the KDP signs. And then we can have a little bit of both.
I would like to see the beautification board even go, I mean, I know their yard of the month thing is, they're now targeting more lagoon-friendly lawns, but I would almost like to see that stepped up to where they're given more signs or more notoriety or recognition to lagoon-friendly lawns, because there's a lot of them in the city, and or even better is have, you know, the Native Plant Society has a tour of native yards or something like that. We talked about that, having that, something like that to me would, I think, be more meaningful.
We're gonna be on the street garden tour.
Okay.
Could we combine the idea of like the new logo thing with a bag thing? Like if we have to order new bags, could we make bags that, you know, advertise lagoon-friendly lawns or something to that effect?
Is she just looking for swag for Founder's Day, or?
Get a whole ton behind why she wanted to do this, but I can certainly talk to her about it tomorrow.
Okay.
If there's a precedent for doing bags, like if that's a financially attainable thing, I feel like that's much more practical than lawn signs, which really have no utility.
It's sustainable.
Yeah, those are good too.
Bags.
You know, I just had an idea, just
Bags are good.
thinking out loud. But what if we put up these signs during the time where you weren't supposed to fertilize, so that there'd be some camaraderie, and people would be like, oh, well, my grass is brown right now because this is not the fertilizing season. I'm on board with this plan of not fertilizing. Or, you know, some tags that have a
Brown is
schedule,
good.
a schedule of when you
Weeds are good.
or
I don't think you want to bring attention to
Okay.
brown
You
lawns,
should have told me that.
okay.
just because there's still that mentality of a lot of people that, you know, that I need the green, beautiful yard.
I experience shame about it every time I look at my neighbor's yard versus my own.
I think the signs are more beautification board though, when you start to talk about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That like falls into the negative.
But there's some beautiful native lawns.
They really are.
In the city.
Yeah.
And,
Well, as we've driven around, we've seen, especially during the dry period, lots of lawns that obviously were not being irrigated and fertilized. And my wife really wanted to make a little door hanger that would say something like, "Thank you for your, lagoon-friendly lawn." People in the neighborhood have lawns that if you look at it closely, it's nothing but the weeds that they have mowed every once in a while. And it's not really grass. So it's not being fertilized, it's not being debugged or deherbicided or whatever else. And that would seem to be something where, and it's not exactly what Courtney's thinking of, but another possibility is having something. If you've got a code violation, you may get a little hanger on your door that says, you really ought to take care of this. To kind of goes the other way and says, maybe your yard's not a KBB lagoon-friendly yard, but it's, moving in that direction.
Clean green.
Yeah, whatever. Basically acknowledging that somebody is doing something by not doing something.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what the new beautification board, yard love program is going towards. I mean, they're doing it now, and they have a new criteria for that. So, but putting this, like a flyer on your door.
Not every door.
No, those doors, yeah.
The doors where somebody, sees that, and there you've got to control it. You don't just everybody run around with a pocket full of flyers.
You can save a lot of paper too.
Yeah, it sounds like a
I'm creating a lot of map on
work for
GIS
somebody.
when you do that. And the map will be on the city website, and we can draw pins, we can do things like that, where it's paper-free.
I appreciate what you're saying, then, John, because I kidded a little bit about experiencing shame, but it's true. My yard, I have ambitions of making it like a proper lagoon-friendly lawn, but at the moment it just kind of looks like it's unkempt, and you feel a little bit like I'm not actively wanting it to look like this, but the neighbor's obviously doing something that I don't do. So I mean, I feel like it's a nice thought to give people a pat on the back to
Well, and I think that's why she wanted the yard signs, because it was more visible to everyone else, more than putting it on your door and you only see that, you know what I mean? That was the idea behind that.
Now, instead of a plastic sign, you could have something that goes on a window.
Visibility, I mean, how big is it?
Could do 8.5 by 11, that's as big as the permits are. Color it green.
You want that on your window?
Yeah.
I'm not feeling that bad about it.
From the yard sign.
You gotta say a house.
Depends what it says.
I think we have more of a chance of someone putting a sign up than a sticker on it.
Yeah.
Well, it's not going to be visible from the street really either to read it. Right.
You know, John, what you're saying, I'm also thinking about it too, and what I was saying before, if we passed out these signs or something and they actually had kind of our idea of how you could maintain your yard, make it as beautiful as possible without the effort or the pesticides and so forth. Maybe that'd be a great opportunity to kind of push something in a direction to keep their yard nice, but without using pesticides and so forth.
Yeah, and my wife and I, we looked at every lawn south of DeSoto, I'm talking a year or so ago, and made a list of all the ones that were either really nice, not the standard, a lagoon-friendly yard, or the ones that were kind of the unkempt, but they were obviously weren't taking the effort to herbicide it and fertilize it and everything else. And somewhere I got the list, I don't know where it is now, but you had to develop a list like that, not just in that part of the city, and then had a map that was posted, People could go around, because it'd be nice for somebody to have a list that says, if you go to this property and that property and that property, you'll see different ways that you can do a yard that looks decent, and that's beauty's in the eye of the beholder. I know a lot of people don't care for my yard. It's an overgrown jungle. And in the early years, we got a fair number of code complaints, even though we were in compliance. But there's yards that's all gravel. There's yards, at least one yard that's all mulch. There's yards with different selections of natives or non-natives. There's all kinds of yards. And so it gives somebody an idea of just a huge breadth of possibilities. All you need to do is be pointed at them and become conscious of them.
This could be a good joint project with beautification, because it's kind of coming at it from both angles, I feel like.
Yeah.
To know, and I do feel like there's an education piece where I'm confess to my own ignorance that to know what the options are out there and how to get there and what the pros and cons are.
Because the thing is, like, there's the one yard that I mentioned that's just down the street from us. It's all weeds and stuff, but it's kept nice. They haven't wasted any resources on it. They just mow it, whatever it is, and it looks fine.
But is that what we want to encourage, somebody to just have a
The point is, if you're driving by, it's green. You don't even notice that it's not grass.
Dick, I thought you were talking about this where you're going to have an inventory you could do the inventory and give it to Nick, and we could make a list of different
Places
lines
yeah.
that you have, and it's research and knowledge and education, which is the most important thing for all of us to learn about, and we could do kind of a study about. Like you said, some people just do rocks, which is pretty sustainable. I don't know how. Do they kill the weeds? I don't know.
Usually you can buy
a black mat, but that only lasts so long before the weeds come in.
Yeah.
So do they spray chemicals on that? I mean, I'm just saying in general, it's just
Yeah, there's different ways.
a lot of different lawns, but
Yeah.
maybe we could just research.
My wife's method of choice is you go raid the cardboard dumpsters at Schechter Center, you unfold the boxes, you lay them down, and you put mulch over.
That's right.
Yeah, that's what I do too. Works really
I know
good.
somebody else that salvaged old carpet, put it down.
So before we move on, I mean, is it agreeable that maybe we should put a little education on this flyer that might be stuck in somebody's yard, or it might, not flyer, but, should we put some info there? 10 Commandments or some type?
I mean, I don't know, but I mean, I'm open to definitely putting something on our Facebook page and putting our logo and say, Go Green SB,
Okay.
and go there and get your tips. I mean, that's digital.
Yeah.
Well, doesn't KBB still have their lagoon-friendly lawn program? And I mean, are we trying to duplicate something that's already out there and spend money on signs that?
Right.
Yes.
So that's a good point.
KBB recently talked to our group and they encouraged, they said they'll help out if anyone wants to do anything, so.
Yeah, I would
you can
say.
reach out to them, they may want to help you.
Carol?
Why duplicate what KBB already has? It's a good working program.
I think. And they have, the grade, they come out and they don't actually come out, but they ask you what you've done to make your lawn lagoon friendly, and you get different levels. having rain barrels and other. So just, consensus of the board, are we in favor of having more signs printed or not?
I'd move for bottles and bags if we're going to do swag at the Founder's Day.
Okay, so no, all, bottles and bags.
We're not voting on this.
I mean, we don't have to vote on it. We're just giving
But
it.
I do have to say, I mean, I definitely agree that we should be doing more bottles and bags. I do think that the signs do have an impact, like the Love Our Lagoon signs, when you see them around, that I think those are positive and uplifting things to see. I understand that, plastic is not the most, favorable, material to be using. I'm pretty sure we're, for these signs, just trying to make clear that we're not using fertilizer. Like, we're not trying to say, oh, we're a native lawn or anything else. I'm pretty sure these were literally just like, hey, we're not using fertilizer. Like, that's all that was. So I don't think we were trying to duplicate anything there. I think that was just trying to make more awareness to let people start that conversation. Don't use fertilizer.
Well, maybe the thing to do, since KBB has a program, which probably, even though it's been advertised, 90% of the people in the city don't know about. Again, the idea of, and I don't know how you'd implement it, that if somebody sees a yard that they think qualifies, whether it's because it's neglected or because it's native or whatever, that somehow somebody lets those people know, whether it's a door hanger, a knock on the door, or something else, there's a program out there that would recognize your yard if you'd like to do that.
So I think what we'll do is one of our first posts on the Facebook page, the beautification board, is to tell people, because those are the type of people that know, right, are on our page, that they can do that and that they can contact us. Because that's a kind of easy way to do that.
And, okay, and when you say us, you're talking about Nick Sanzone, right?
Well, yeah.
We can put a link to the program.
Put a link to the program, it's on our
Oh,
website.
okay.
Yeah.
Just thinking out loud again, we don't want to duplicate KBB's signs. So what if we got more of KBB's signs? Can we do that?
They're made by Scouts. They're not just like.
They're not like
produced.
right, but we're talking about getting Scouts to make signs for us now.
Yeah. No, we go on. Finish your idea.
If we make more of these KBB signs and then have the sign there, but under the sign have a little information card for the Sustainability Board Satellite Beach.
Yeah, I think the signs, as much as I do agree we should have something informational, it's important, but I think the signs, no one's stopping and reading them.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more about trying to make a movement, make people acknowledge that, the community is going in a different direction in some fashion, which normally is, that's why the Love Our Lagoon is so great, because it's you don't have to stop to understand what that sign is or what they're supporting. If you're trying to list, 10 things on a sign, no one's going to know what that sign is or what it means.
Well, and when you come to get your Love Our Lagoon sign, you have to sign a pledge saying, I agree to do all these things.
Yeah, I was going to say, what if we have a pledge like that and it says let's say our sign says, my lawn is sustainable, or I have a sustainable lawn, something like that. And then they sign a pledge that says, check the following ways that your lawn is sustainable. I pledge to, maintain this or implement new things or stuff like that. That way you're educating people.
Yeah,
in a
rather than
similar
just
way.
giving them a sign.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I mean, if you're going to do it, then that would be very beneficial.
Yeah, and that's what KBB does. You are saying that
It's all part of that.
this is what I'm doing.
Again, so it's not duplicate.
That's anglers, just to be clear. Love Our Lagoon is anglers for conservation.
No. I'm talking the KBB program that they've got the wooden sign, not
We
the,
can post on the Facebook page, if you want to try to make it more noticeable, we can post a link to that map of those lawns in Satellite Beach, which they have on a live map. We can just make sure that we post that every so often on the beautification board page. It says, we want to celebrate that we currently have 35 lagoon-friendly lawns in Satellite Beach. You know, these lawns are fertilizer-friendly, blah, 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 blah. We just make a digital post of it.
Yeah, I like that.
Because that, again, saves paper, reduces the signage out
And
there.
just put a photo on the Facebook, like a virtual tour of,
We can do that. We can do a virtual tour. That's a great idea. I can create
I'd like to do a
some
virtual tour and a real tour, but
We can do the bike tour that goes through all those sites.
that's where I was going, and I was gonna save that for the agenda item for the next
It
meeting.
was on my staff report, but I couldn't wait for it.
Okay.
But just so I'm following you, we're trying to create swag to give out, right? So we want to have something to give away
Bags.
at the event.
Bag, water, I still have recycled pencils as
Yeah.
part of my thing. I got eco-friendly cards that I created an entire deck of as part of the grant. If we want to tack on some more funds to those, I spent a lot of time and energy creating an entire deck of 52 cards that outline sustainable practices as part of a grant. If we would like to allocate some money to do that, that's fine too. I mean, there's a lot of things out there that we can do.
Straws.
Straws.
Now, folks,
And bottles and bags save so much single-use plastic if people really adopt them, you know?
I've seen a lot of people at Publix lately using,
Yeah, for sure.
bags,
the,
reusable bags.
folks like the love your lagoon signs,
I mean,
but they're
pretty.
plastic. Is there, you've got plywood and you have marine plywood. There's corrugated cardboard. Is there weather-resistant cardboard that maybe only lasts 6 months or something, but isn't plastic? I don't know.
Okay.
Rusty steel, like have it, I don't know,
Little, like, yeah,
stamped out
little
of,
steel stamped stuff.
yeah,
Okay.
or aluminum, I don't know. But then you're talking a lot of money, and unless you can,
Expensive pledge.
yeah. It'd look really cool, though. It'd be like yard art, you know?
On a budget.
It'd be cool if we could, like, get people to bring, like, old baking trays and stuff like that to the Schechter Center, and then use those, like, stamp those.
Get a machine
and
that
have them
just-
be, like, reclaimed
That is a cool idea.
city waste.
Well, look at the other material options.
Yeah. All right, so we need to move on, I think. Is there any more discussion on this or public comment?
Could I say just two things?
Sure.
One is, if you're thinking about making bags, it keeps running through my mind, because there are so many bags out there now, people are not going to pay $10 to have a nice sustainable water bag, because they've already got 50 in their car.
But the ones we have are a lot better.
Yeah, they are.
They may be a lot better, but I'm willing to bet you that people aren't going to pay the money for it.
How much were we?
We actually do have a lot of people that actually do buy them, but I actually do like the idea of water bottles, especially if we're going to go in the direction of putting fountains everywhere. I think that we should be doing reusable water bottles, have our logo on them, and get everyone using those.
And
So the city can't charge for them, right?
I'm going to throw in one more thing. Maybe for next year, we do like those welcome flags with sustainability. Next year, we don't have enough time now. The young people with the welcome flags out front, that's fabric, biodegradable, whatever.
That's a good idea.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Next year, but we don't have time for
Yeah. All right, so I guess, is there any, then let's move on to the staff update.
So first of all, I want to sign up the water bottles and say that I just came back from a junior sustainability board meeting with Laura this morning, and it went really well. And we landed on, guess what, reusable water fountains, installing one in Laura, and using the water bottles as a campaign to help them pay for it. So what they'll do is they'll get sponsors to purchase the water bottles, put their logos on it, and then sell them to students at a discounted price. That money that they raise can go to pay for an additional water fountain or a bike rack or whatever that junior sustainability board wants to do.
Nice.
So if we're on the same page as them, we could kind of, be doing similar things at a similar time. So that was number one. It was a good meeting, and they're really great kids. The next thing is the August 23rd workshop. As part of our sustainability workshops, we'll be on dune restoration. That will be tomorrow. Then September 1st is the planting day, and I will email everybody the final flyer. I found finished. We're putting them at different restaurants and businesses with the interns that we have. They're going to go out on Tuesday.
Tomorrow night, 7 o'clock here. Is that the details for your workshop?
Yes. Tomorrow night, and then on September 7th, KDP is having their rollout for the litter quitter program. I went ahead and got certified in litter quitter by attending their zoo event, so I can go to different restaurants and get them enrolled in the program. If you find any restaurants that you would like to do that with, just write them down, shoot me an email, or go visit them and go through the motions with them.
Did you talk to them about not having 1, 2, 1, and then 2, and then 3 that you?
I did actually, and what they said was that if somebody wants to skip and add and kind of add and subtract levels, that's fine. If they want to do a level 3 item, but not a level 1 item, you subtract it, they become a level 2. You know, that kind of a situation.
Okay. You didn't visit Taco Bell, did you?
I did not visit Taco Bell, no, I went home after that.
You need to do that.
So yeah, well, Taco Bell's on top of my list. The Hilton event for KDB's rollout is on September 7th, and they asked me to table it, so if anybody wants to table that,
You
What
said,
date did you say that is?
September 7th.
you said the Hilton?
Yes, at the Hilton,
Which Hilton?
Cocoa Beach.
Oh, okay.
So I was gonna go to the table, if anybody would like to table with me, let me know. It'd be fun. Cocoa Beach Community Garden is on the 15th, which is the same day as the EV car event, so I'm gonna try to be at both. But, you know.
Actually, also the same day as International Coastal Cleanup.
It is.
It's going to be cleanups in every city.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be ridiculous.
Yeah, so it's a really busy day. I'm gonna try to be relevant, but I think if somebody can be at the EV event with the car, with the sustainability vehicle, I don't know if we can have one of you, I can drop it off and kind of watch it, then I can come back and get it, and just go to the garden over there for an hour or two and come back. That was kind of planned for the 15th, because it's so busy. The bike rodeo is the 21st, we already talked about that. Then September 27th is our community garden workshop, where I'm going to be sending out emails to all of the gardeners. We sent out a gardener email earlier in the month, reminding everybody that it's community closed, and then we're going to implement the additional bed option, where they buy the bed, they install the bed, they can have their own bed for 3 years, and then it gets donated to the city. That way we can kind of do away with the I really want to stay for an extra year situation that we're in with like 90% of our community gardeners, which is great. But in year 3, like I mentioned, we're going to go to the raffle program, where that way we're just going to sell raffle tickets. You can buy as many raffle tickets as you want. If you win, you get a bed. If not, the money goes to the community garden. Everybody wins. Nobody gets slighted. On with the community garden, we're going to start that sustainable planting area in front of the racquetball court wall. I got the materials left over from the solar that we're going to use, so we're going to repurpose the cinder blocks and the pallets and different things that they had delivered the solar on. We're going to repurpose it at the garden.
Which wall are you talking about?
The east facing wall.
Are we going to do that mural?
We're going to do the mural, yeah.
Because otherwise we're going to just step on all of that.
No, it's fine. It's just, it's temporary. It's not like crazy permanent or anything like that.
Is it just going to be on the sides, or is it going to be?
So just imagine like 3 foot across the bottom, and then maybe a little taller on the edges, and the plants will grow up around the bottom.
Kind of frame the.
Just to frame it. 1 gallon pots, so we'll grow a lot of those cuttings and things that you have in the 1 gallon pots. Make those available at Founders Day, at events where you just give away plants to the community, or for donation or whatever. But that's an easy one. And there's plenty on railroad line if we want to make cuttings. There's tons of that at the community garden.
Yeah, I saw the plants you have over there.
Yeah, the weaving, I don't know if you've seen them, I'm trying to weave the lines around the whole thing. It looks really cool. But yeah, so that's it. It's been easy.
Any discussion, comments?
On the water.
Will you come up to the podium? It's just, we need it for the recording.
On the refillable water stations, does the vendor that you're talking to, they have an option to go to a better quality of filtration, not just for fluoride, but for chloramines and bromines and arsenic and lead and all like that, like reverse osmosis. Reverse osmosis is coming down in price, and they're pretty small, and the filters, like even on a carbon thing, the filters are going to have to be replaced, every 3-6 months, whatever. I've been doing a little research into, different filtration, but,
I'll look into it.
okay, thank you.
The cost of filtration.
Because when you're kind of advertising, filtered water, that people like myself until the last 6 months had no idea what was being filtered out and what wasn't.
Right. Maybe an educational component to that program.
And you mentioned the planting, right?
I did, right, September 1st, did I mention that? Yeah, I did mention that.
What's the status of the solar?
Let her
So I'll finish with the planting. So September 1st at the DeSoto, I guess we'll just say it's at the library. It's at the library at 9 to 2 is when we're going to do the planting. The 2 stormwater ponds right there, as you go into that area on the left, the eastern pond, we're planting the southern shore of it. We have all the plants. The flyer, like I said, I'll email everybody the flyer digitally. If you would like to pick up a physical copy, I can print them out for you. We can do that. I didn't want to print them ahead of time. But yeah, 9 to 2.
Is there a lot of, what's growing there now? Is it torpedo grass?
It's a lot of Adelia torpedo grass. So what we do is just rip back all the vegetation that's currently on the shoreline. We're going to plant it with mangroves and spartina.
You want me to bring over this big piece of black plastic and just try to choke it out with that?
Yeah, we're doing that.
Rather,
You want to help me do
I mean, I've got these giant
No, I got huge rolls, 500 feet long here.
500 feet rolls of plastic, or?
The weed barrier cloth. Yeah.
So you're just going to lay that down to try to kill it?
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
If it has a weave, it won't work on torpedo grass. I can
Yeah,
tell
I
you
mean,
from personal experience.
I've got this stuff that's, it's this thick, and they're 5 by 12 or 5 by 11, and I think I have 5 of them.
All right, you can bring them, sure. But we'll be out there tomorrow, so if you want to come by.
Tomorrow?
Yeah.
I can throw them in my trailer and bring them by.
All right.
What time are you going to be out there?
Probably 9 to noon.
Okay.
Have there been any sightings of gators around there, that area?
Not that through.
It just came up in conversation, I was talking about that.
Typically, when it comes to gators, we don't see them beachside because that means they would have had to cross the lagoon, which is brackish water, and typically alligators don't like brackish water.
They're in the canal, though, right?
People have seen them on the island.
They're in the canal.
Yeah, they've gone over, I mean,
Yeah. I'm just curious, it just came up in conversation. Okay.
I see them all the time down the Bell Beach.
Yeah.
Hammock Time Preserve Trail, if you run up along the lagoon side into the lake area, there's tons of them, like dozens of them up there.
My grandparents lived in Indian Atlantic, and they had one on their lawn when I was a kid, I remember.
has anybody seen alligators?
Yep.
Yeah?
I see
In the lagoon or on the land?
No, in the Grand Canal and in my canal.
Definitely in the canal.
Yeah. Is that what you meant?
Well, yeah, but then also the stormwater pond was kind of what you're talking about?
I'm just curious, it came up, I was telling somebody about doing this event, and go, well, what about the gators? And,
Isn't there a sign?
There is an alligator sign. There's an alligator sign.
Always assume there's an alligator.
I was thinking,
Yeah, I've never seen one.
That is a good point.
just trying to keep people safe,
Yeah, safety talks, always, ways to think.
All right, next time.
Wait.
Is there
What's,
more?
what's the status of the solar? Is it,
So we're completed, everything is done except for the last wiring. All solar's on, inverters are, I think, hooked up, and should be by the end of the month, should be good to go.
is there going to be any kind of formal?
Well, me and Dylan were talking about that, and we're probably gonna do a video, and then get the mayor involved and do, I was thinking like a month might be nice to kind of get some data, and just say like, we've been running for this long, and this is what we've saved in a month, because I wanna wait until they finish the lobby installation with the, display that they're gonna give us, where you can actually see how much power we're saving. So once that's up and the video's done, when we have some data, it'd be really nice to kind of use that when we kick things off, to kind of say, hey, look, we're ribbon cutting this and celebrating X number of kilowatt hours saved.
Now, is that data on the internet?
It will be, yeah.
Which means that if you had a link on the EV day, you could have a display up at the event, right?
Yeah, I think we can probably do that. For the EV day, I was gonna share the, energy saved through the bulk usage, because we have that in our monthly statement, which would be kind of nice to give people.
We are inviting solar there, so it wouldn't hurt if we wanted to do that.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah, I don't know what that's I guess an Adam question is how you get the data off the internet up there on what?
It's just a simple app, yeah. It's not-
Well, you need Wi-Fi or something
Your
to,
address is right there, yeah.
yeah.
Run it real quick. Okay, share story, yeah.
Any more discussion on staff update? Okay, moving on. Project updates from board members and brainstorm. Start with you.
Yeah, I'll try to be brief. I happened to go as a guest to the KBB board meeting yesterday morning, and while I was there, there was a really interesting topic. Some of y'all may already know about this, but there's a woman from the city of Melbourne there who's on the board, I take it, and a woman from Waste Management as well. Melbourne's doing this program, which again, people may already know about, but basically we talked about wish cycling and kind of the issues that they're having with that a couple meetings back. Melbourne's sending out a city employee with like a vest on and a Melbourne vehicle on the recycling day to go through people's cans with a checklist to say like, yeah, and then they're leaving it on the door. And you know, the bad news is that they're finding a lot of issues, but it's I think a brilliant public education campaign. KBB was very positive about it, offering to help. I told them that I was on this board, we were having a meeting today, and that I was going to tell everyone about it, and they're like, yes, please, you know, steal, whatever. I was like, this is, because I said we identified it as an issue, and I talked about, you know, the fact that Nick had gone to Waste Management and seen about it being shut down and everything else, but, you know, the woman from Waste Management was saying it's true, you know, when it's a Waste Management official, people kind of have this, like, oh, you know, you're just trying to, yeah, whatever, but having the imprimatur, if that's a word, of a city official going out and doing it, they're getting a couple funny looks, but then once people see what's going on, I think it's a brilliant idea for public education, and it's something I think we could do here, just, you know, I mean, so I'm really embarrassed that I don't have the two women's names, particularly the woman from Melbourne, but I can get it for you. She's the woman from the city of Melbourne who's on the KBB board. I'd imagine it's only one.
Jennifer Wilson.
Okay, yeah, it's on their website. I meant to do that today, and then stuff got crazy, but I figured it was, if you can find the
Like
information.
environment, like, does your job, right?
Yeah, kind of, hers is more of a water-based. Actually, you know, they just hired Michelle. She's also new.
I'll do it.
They're both in my South chapter.
Okay, yeah, and I thought that you were in this, so yeah. And she definitely is in the South Action Team, because she mentioned that during her little intro, so, yeah, but I think that we should
John wants me to
steal the idea, adopt it. Because, I mean, it's like I said, it's brilliant, because a lot of people just don't know. And we still have that conversation in my house about whether to put stuff in the cannon. Yeah, I mean, I can tell you as an attorney, once it's out on the street, like it is abandoned property. So any citizen can go to someone else's trash, just so you know. Yeah, I mean, you don't have an expectation of privacy, so people can go through and look, because you're abandoning it at that point. Yeah. So, yeah, it's sitting out there, and they're going through the recycling bin with a checklist. Like, you had stuff stuff you're not supposed to have, and I think that maybe there's a listing, and then there's like an other for something crazy. I mean, that was my understanding, at least, the way they were describing it. But that way, I think people, it's a little bit of a, you know, a slap on the wrist without having any negative impact initially, but it's just good education, I think.
So, Mark, what you're saying is legally, we could create a team of people that could go around and do this? Is this what you're saying?
When it's out at the curb, I mean, you have a city attorney to add, but my understanding of the Fourth Amendment as a former prosecutor is if it's sitting out on someone's street, you know, it's open game. That's how, and there are many, that's how I'm not sure, but I think that's how they get, when they say they have like a piece of DNA, for comparison purposes, a lot of times that's where they find it.
What you don't do is go onto the condo property where it's back against the building or something.
I'm talking about on
He's talking
recycling
on
day.
the right-of-way. It is off private property.
It's sitting out there waiting for waste management. The city official beats the waste management truck there and goes through it.
Okay, thank you for sharing.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, next. Chris?
I've spoken enough. Thanks for listening. I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to run this by you guys about helping approaching businesses and homeowners and talking them into going solar power if they want. So I put together a little. Before I started doing that, I wanted to have like a flyer I could give everybody that I talk to read once I leave and.
Take one, pass it down. It's like,
Thanks. And I talked to Nate briefly about this before and ran it by Dave a little bit, but the idea would be I would talk to people, probably approach buildings that look like they're solar viable, the roof looks good, and then go talk to them people about the benefits of going solar. And if they're interested, then I would do a Google Earth on their roof, make sure there's not too much shading, and do a kind of analysis on that. And then get back to them and say, well, the next step would be we need to get like a year's worth of your electric bills. And at that point, I've talked to a guy at Winmar Solar that if he had the bills, then he would kind of like coordinate the homeowner or business to talk to the solar provider, and maybe more than one solar provider. So that would be kind of the approach.
so do you want, I think this is a great idea. If you're willing to do that, and we could throw it up on the Facebook page or something, or somewhere where if people are interested in, like, just say the Sustainability Board is offering like just a quick analysis of your home to see, and that way they're not pressured by sales people or.
And we can do some information on the base program and other things.
Yeah, that needs to be included.
Well, actually, somebody, this is a good start. There's a DOE site called PV Watts. You can put in your address and which way your roof faces, what the pitch is on the roof, and it comes up and tells you how much electric you'll save, and if you put in how much you're paying for electricity, it'll tell you how much a given size array will generate in a year. And I don't remember who it is. There's another organization that has a website where you actually put your address, and I think it gives an indication of the shading and everything else based on aerial photography. And the only thing this does that a solar provider won't do is there's no pressure to buy, there's no feeling of an obligation, because the first thing any of them will do, at least that's reputable, if you approach them, will be they will go on the internet, they will do a roof survey, they will do their own, probably not PV watts, but their own algorithm to estimate what the yield would be. Yeah. And it is worth people's considering it, given that the vendor that I worked with, I just checked today, their price at 10 cents per kilowatt hour, including the cost of the extra attachment that's needed because we're in a high wind zone out here on the island, the payback period is less than 11 years. And that is the equivalent of about 7% return on your investment if you made an investment. I doubt that there's many safe investments that'll give you that return these days. So it is a good idea. The city has 4 PACE providers that are authorized to operate in the city if somebody doesn't have the cash in hand. I understand from something Julie sent around that there's a 5th that's now, that meeting on Monday, the noon meeting at the Florida Solar Energy Center, is a presentation by another basically PACE provider, which is not yet authorized to operate in the city. Something maybe need to be dealt with there. So yeah, there's a lot of possibility here.
Does anybody, I talked to one of the Brevard Solar, and I asked them about the PACE program, and I said, have you ever utilized the PACE program? And he basically said no.
Right.
And I don't know why. I mean, I get, is it just because there's just not that many?
Well, you have to be approved through the program.
Yeah.
See, there's a real problem here of scale. Satellite Beach approved the 4 PACE providers. As far as I know, no other jurisdiction in all of Brevard County has done so. So the only clients that possibly can use those programs are the 5,000 property owners in Satellite Beach. And so it's hard for them to elicit or solicit and get vendors to sign up for the possibility of a few sales among 5,000 clients. So there's a problem of scale here.
I think recently the county may have approved PACE. Countywide. We have to double check on that.
All right, so let's, I don't want to go off topic too much or get on a tangent, but let's just discuss his idea. How do we want to proceed with this? I mean, I think it's great that you're offering this service, and I think...
Yeah, I mean, it won't be much to start, maybe one a week, or, I would just approach a business or a homeowner, talk to them. It's kind of more education.
I mean, I hope you get overwhelmed with responses, but it'll be interesting. It'll be a good test to see just how many people are interested in solar and maybe afraid. I mean, I get inundated with people calling me up all the time trying to sell me solar. And I already have solar on my house. I don't know how I got on this list of the solar target. It's almost like robocalls continually for solar.
I have a quick point, or a question even. Do we have a booth at Founders Day for solar? Is that an opportunity to build a list of people who might be interested?
I mean, you're just talking about having a solar vendor?
A solar vendor with actual, the 4 vendors that have been approved?
Yeah, we had Y-Green before.
Y-Green?
Well, okay, question is, at the electric vehicle, have you signed up any solar vendors? I know that at least at one of the, and I think maybe 2 of the previous electric vehicle events, Brevard Solar was there. And I believe also Solar Systems of Brevard, which is a separate vendor. I know at one of those meetings, both of those vendors were represented.
But I'm just saying that would be a great opportunity to offer the service at the Founders Day.
Yeah.
But should we put it on the Facebook page as an offering, or do we just want to?
We can post it up.
All of them, definitely.
I mean, it doesn't have to be. It could be included in the announcement.
We posted about it before. We've done it before.
But I think it's great that you're willing to do that and go out and like community outreach for something like that.
I mean, there's lots to learn, and like we're talking about the PACE, and they got zero down solar these days, and then you get a loan for a small percent. So you buy a solar array, and then your electricity bill is less, or you're paying less for the loan than you're paying for your electricity bill. and then you pay off the whole thing in 7 or 8 years. So it's financially, it's a good investment, and that's the whole
I
thing.
paid mine off in 7 years, but I was about a long time ago.
Put the offer in Beachcaster as well.
Sorry?
Put the offer in Beachcaster as well.
All right, so all in favor of putting it on Facebook?
Can I say just one thing before vote?
Sure.
I think this is a great idea. One potential thing to be aware of is I think it's important that we maintain objectivity amongst vendors, you know what I mean? So it's clear that we're providing an analysis, and then we want to give every possible option that is do you see what I'm saying?
I agree.
Like, because we don't want to, our whole thing is that's why it's, we're not soliciting for a business, we're soliciting for the concept of solar, and then letting them know what all their options are. That's it, yeah.
Yeah, that was the whole purpose of this. If I have like a flyer, I want to make sure this is my approach. I don't overstep my bounds and here or there,
Yeah, I mean, this looks, I just skimmed through it, but it looks like it's generic and, you're not,
I would think, though, that it would help if you became conversant with the various funding options, because I think that very often is going to be the perceived obstacle. I don't have $20,000 sitting, at home waiting to be spent. How do you get around or help somebody over that barrier? And
if you go to the EV car show and Larry Maxwell shows up, he used to work at the Florida Solar Energy Center. He's an architect. He's very well versed in solar. And you can also just go on Florida Solar Energy Center's website and learn a lot about its use. What is it? fsec.ucf.edu, I think, or something like that. All right. So,
Okay.
Any more discussion on that? Can we move on? All right, next.
So the aeration project has a year anniversary has come and gone, and I think if you recall, the purpose of one of the initial endpoints, I think, was to hopefully change the bottom of the canal that's being studied. The study investigators have since proposed that the project continue. They haven't indicated that there's a significant change in the bottom, but they have indicated that they think more pure oxygen might help promote what originally was one of the endpoints. The health of the water is clearly better on a chemistry level, and there's some discussion of adding some infrastructure to the project. The infrastructure would be involved with getting pure oxygen blown in.
That sounds expensive.
I might have mentioned, I think I mentioned in previous meetings that the nano bubble technology, where the surface tension of the water keeps the bubbles down at the bottom, I haven't heard a whole lot about how effective that has been.
So they've already started doing the nano?
Yeah, there's 2 diffusers at the end of the canal that are blowing nano bubbles. And then, the lamellar flow of the original diffusers, the 2x2 plates, ceramic plates, that's kicking up a lot of water, and one of the indicators that kind of confirms that is there's a neighbor that has a big sport fisherman boat, and he's got some AC units that use the canal water to cool, and he's having some issues because of muck filled up in his AC unit.
Using the water from the...
Yeah, it's a common thing for big boats to...
Oh, for his boat. Okay.
Yeah. So he's going to be moving his boat. But yeah, that's a pretty good indicator of how vigorous the water is turning from those plates, the original.
Are there a whole bunch of fish hanging out in there?
No, I really wish the answer to that question was yes, but
yeah.
No,
So
I haven't seen one.
Their goal was to see if it would remove the muck, or?
Yeah, well, it was going to be an adjunct or potentially replacement to dredging. So, yeah, we've come and gone with a year, and it was supposed to only last a year, and there's no end in sight. Sounds like everybody's excited about trying more and new things, so, and I'm cool with it, so.
Yeah, I was really.
I think it's a good idea.
I had a lot of hopes that would be like a really, like a.
Yeah, I'm surprised then that the organic hasn't reduced that much.
Well, now that's I don't know as though just muck is an indicator of organic. I think there is some impact that's occurring as it relates to phosphorus and nitrogen. I do think that I haven't seen any endpoints or any.
What about like seagrass growth? Are they doing?
Yeah, so actually the water clarity, I gotta be honest with you, I think it's worse.
Right.
And so
Because
seagrass
it's
is gonna
stirring.
require, better clarity.
Well, if it's stirring up
Yeah.
the very fines,
Yeah.
then it is going to get more turbid.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if you're attenuating nitrogen and phosphorus, over time, that's good.
Yeah, exactly, right.
And it'd be nice if the oxygen were actually attenuating the carbon too. Then you'd get down to pure clay, silt, and sand, and there's nothing you can do about the clay. I mean, that's there.
And inert anyway. But yeah, so I haven't had a chance to really talk to the main investigator in a while, just because of time. He's there when I'm not and whatnot, so, but I'll try to get some ideas.
I forget who it was. Somebody mentioned to me, we're doing, Nick, do you still have that grant program? Where you're doing like a restoration of a shoreline, a lagoon shoreline?
Yeah, we did a presentation on that in last month, July, last month.
Who's funding it?
So that's through FIT and NEP.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you have already a candidate to do that?
We did. We have 3 people applied. They filled out the application that's available online, and I got to go do some site visits and get some preliminary designs back from them.
So do they have ground that goes right up to the edge of the lagoon, and you're going to take a?
Most of them are seawalls.
So seawalls, but are you actually getting rid of lawn, or are you?
Right. We'll get rid of, depending on how much space, but usually anywhere between like 10 and 20 linear feet and 6 feet wide, and create a bioswale against the seawall area, and then create a little berm so that the area behind the seawall is maintained so it doesn't erode, but the water is given a chance to, percolate before it spills over the seawall.
So somebody had a pretty cool idea they told me about, where they thought about pumping water out of the lagoon up into the swale, where you have a bioswale.
Oh.
And it would theoretically nourish the plants, but also filter the water.
That's interesting.
But
It sounds like
it's
a
not throwing out there.
project. That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, then you'd be more than just.
Right.
You'd be enhancing.
We only have $500 for each person.
Yeah.
Through this, so it's.
Yeah, I know it'd be.
But I like that.
Yeah, something to think about.
Well, I talk to Dr. Littman about project ideas all the time, so that's really cool.
Yeah. Next. Before everybody goes to sleep.
Yeah, I'd have to leave. We'll have to table that, because I actually have a great idea. It's actually pumping lagoon water into your lawns. But I can't do it right now because we're restrained by time.
Okay. Table that. I don't have anything. Jazzy, you got anything?
No.
Dylan?
I'm just working on some ideas.
Okay. All right, so where are we? Agenda items for the next meeting. Anybody have anything?
Do we want to revisit the solar initiative, or do we figure that's on the move, we don't need to talk anymore?
What do you mean by the solar initiative?
Having somebody look at it and stuff, are we comfortable just going ahead, or do you want to refine it anymore?
I'm comfortable with him talking. It seems like he's done enough research and that it's important that you give them those free tools that he mentioned.
Yep.
Or you can even use it yourself, PV Watts, and what's the other one?
I'm not sure of the name of the site that does the.
Yeah, I know. I've
You
seen
could
a
almost
couple of
Google
them.
it, and it would come up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would,
It'll bring to the city website, the links to the Facebook.
yeah.
Okay.
So I have one quick agenda item, since we were talking about lagoon-friendly lawns and yards. I mentioned the virtual tour, but I really, now, when the weather gets cooler, I want to do a real lagoon-friendly yard tour, just through the city. It actually doesn't even, almost like an alternative yard tour. And I'd be glad to throw my house out there because I have an edible landscape. David has a edible / lagoon-friendly native landscape. I think we both kind of do the same thing. And then there's some really cool lagoon-friendly lawns. But the idea would be, I won't go into it too much, but to have a bike tour and then possibly just have each house host it and have, refreshments and stuff like that. And make it fun, and if it's cool out, then much more people would be inclined to do it. And the other thing I would like to add is this demonstration yard idea. Where I think the biggest hurdle for most people to go from grass or a weed yard into a lagoon-friendly lawn is where to get the plants and how to do it. And if we get taken a crappy yard in Satellite Beach, and I don't know how we would choose that.
Did you mention you want to be part of that?
What's that now? I'm sorry.
It's like but last time you mentioned that you wanted to kind of update with this idea to use a demonstration yard to how to become.
Oh, I was more interested in demonstration.
Okay.
So,
And then we can video it, maybe.
technically, so there is a video from, Ken Letterman that I've done with him over the year of him transitioning his lawn. That's being looked over right now by KVP. They're going to release it with FIT. So that will be coming out. And then also want to let you know that India Atlantic's Environmental Advisory Task Force, whatever they call themselves, they're actually going to be trying to create something similar to what you're explaining, where they're doing kind of like a mock of like a HGTV type thing, where they take someone's lawn and then they turn it into like a native lawn. So yeah, they're kind of doing that in a sense as well.
Yeah. All right. So just a couple items. Does anybody else have anything they want to put on there?
I'd like to just follow up, since this will be like just a few days after the bike rodeo, kind of revisit how that went, talk about future bike events, tasks.
Yeah. Okay. That's a topic. So what do you want to call it? Just recap of bike rodeo and
future planning.
Well, you might talk about alternative vehicle, because the golf carts have become increasingly popular too, and so who knows, maybe eventually you'll want to sponsor not just bicycles, but,
one wheels.
Don't forget the skateboards.
Skateboards, one wheels, electric scooters, electric skateboards.
Right, yep.
The police are just going to go nuts when they find out. They still give me weird looks when I ride around on my one wheel because they don't know what it is. They don't know whether to arrest me or
cheer you on.
And there's so many weird alternative things that you can buy these days. E-bikes that go so fast that those things are dangerous when they. Because you see a bicycle and you think, oh, he's just going like 10 miles per hour. And he zooms by at like 40 miles per hour, Okay, so moving on. Adoption of minutes for July 26, 2018. Does anyone want to
So
make
moved.
Okay.
Second. Second.
Have a second?
Yep.
Julie?
David Bigliotti,
Yes.
Matt White,
Yes.
Christopher Reed,
Yes.
Mark Boyd,
Yes.
John Fergus,
Yes.
Dave Floyd,
Yes.
motion carried.
All right, that's all we have for this today. Thank you.